Welcome back everyone. In this video I'll show you something that I'm really excited about. It's a Lego table. It's a table where the kids can put on the Legos they have, which is not a lot yet, but there's more to come. And the reason why I'm excited about is because I had the same thing when I was a child, which is about like 30 years ago or so now. I'm getting old, I know. And it's something that when I was young, my grandfather made for myself and for my brother. And it was something that we really liked. We really loved that table. And we had lots of friends who were jealous of this table that we had. And in these days I guess there's something you can buy similar things like this. Even my wife showed me a few days ago that you can buy something like this at Costco, and it's in these days it's pretty common to have something similar. But back in the days when I was young, it was something nobody else had. And so my brother and I, we loved that table, like I said. And so now that my kids are getting older, I decided maybe it would be great to provide something for them too. And so I decided to collect some leftovers that I had in my shop, which is for the tabletop, or is it a table bottom in this case? I don't know. It's this plywood, and the rest is made out of Douglas fir. And yeah, let's go right into it. So before I start with let's say it's a tabletop, I make sure that I use the right saw blade. And I think I mentioned this before. I think it is very important to use the right saw blade for the right purpose. And since this is plywood with veneer on it, I decided to use a finishing blade, or some would call this a crosscut blade. But it's a blade with lots of tooth, and it kind of makes a really good finish. It does not cause a lot of chip out, and that's definitely something you want to see if you work with sheet good. So you can see here that first I did not cut those two boards to the final width right from the beginning. I cut off one side first, and then I flip those boards over, and then I cut the other side. And the reason for this is to make sure that both sides are really, really, really straight. And I probably could have used the original edge of those boards, but those factory edges, to be honest, I do not trust them a lot. I'm not saying they are never straight or so, but in my experience, they those factory, or those edges that come from the factory of those boards, are really messed up. So I rather double cut them than having a edge that does not look very good. Then I bring those boards over to my miter saw to cut them to length, and after that I glue those boards together. To make sure those when I glue those together, to make sure that I do not end up with an edge between those on the glue line, I use for in this case I use my biscuit jointer, which is a tool that I do not really use very often, to be honest, because I do not work a lot with sheet code anymore. But once in a while, I well, to be honest, I like this tool. But and once in a while, to be honest, I seems like I try to find reasons where I can use this tool. In this case, I use, I think, number 20 biscuits. And I know I probably could have done it without it, but I definitely wanted to make sure that when I glue those boards together, that I, like I said, I do not end up with a sharp edge in between that I have to sand down. And when I sand down too much, I probably sand through the surface veneer, and yeah, it could end up in a mess, and I didn't want that. So here is something that I want to mention, because I once in a while I see this in other YouTube videos. When people apply the glue for, or when they use biscuits to build some furniture, and when it comes to the glue up, they do not apply glue in those slots where the biscuit goes in. And I'm not saying that it's a huge mistake, but it kind of misses, it misses the purpose of that biscuit. Or another name for that biscuit is actually a flat dowel, because it has the same, it does pretty much does the same like a dowel would do. And usually, or the good biscuits and the good dowels are usually made out of beech wood, and beech wood is a wood species that when it comes in contact with water, it swells up, and it swells up more than other wood species, and which is in this case a good thing, because it kind of makes the joint even tighter. And when I see that people do not apply glue, I'm sorry, apply glue in those slots, it's like I said, it kind of misses the whole purpose of that dowel or that biscuits. I just wanted to mention it. If you have a different opinion, I'm fine. It's all good. So here I'm working now on the legs for the table, and like I mentioned before, it's completely made out of Douglas fir. And you might wondering, why is this guy cutting down some really good boards to make some really short or small pieces out of it? And I have to say, those boards that you see here, those bigger boards, I didn't make them for any purpose before. Those are just made out of lots of small boards that I have. I have like, well, hundreds of small Douglas fir boards, and you can take this as some advice from a fellow woodworker. Whenever I have time left in my shop, I just grab those boards that I have and glue them together, because you never know when the next project comes along, and maybe you could need them, maybe not. But when I need them, I always have a few boards ready that I can use, and so it's not a waste of a bigger board that could have that I could have used for something else, for something bigger or so. No, I have so many boards left, and like I said, whenever I have time, I just glue boards together to have them ready for the next project. Of course, there is some sanding involved. Also, kind of get rid of the sharp edges of the boards, and then I can start to put everything together. I think here I forgot a few boards for the legs, but yeah, no big deal. I have, like I said, I always have boards ready that I can use. I probably should mention that I changed the blade off camera to from the crosscut blade back to the ripping blade, because you definitely do not want to do rip cuts with a crosscut blade. So here's a quick tip I want to share with you. When it comes to edge sanding, and you have like a few boards that have all the same size, instead of sanding all the edges of all the boards one after the other, just do what I did there. I just clamped those boards together, make sure that there are no steppings between those boards, and then I can sand them all together. Saves a ton of time, especially if you are like me and you're not the biggest fan of sanding. And here I already start with the frame for this for the table. I use this little tool which is called an awl, as I know now, because you guys mentioned it in another video. And the reason is I make a small hole with it before to make sure that the drill does not slip when I do the pre-drilling. Nothing's worse than having scratches on the surface of your board from a drill that slipped. You can see here that I use three different cordless drills, and one is technically for pre-drilling, one is for countersinking the hole, and the last one is for screwing the screw in. So yeah, you can pretty much never have enough cordless drills in your shop, in my opinion. If you would need to do this with only one drill that you have ready, it would take a lot more time to do this. Okay, that was for the frame, and now I connect the frame to the tabletop. Again, I just screw everything together. Of course, you want to make sure that everything is flush and that you do not have any steppings. Okay, that's pretty much it for the tabletop. And now I put those legs together. I do it very simple. I just screw two boards together to have a 90-degree angle. And I did this before on other projects, especially for kids, for little tables for kids, because those legs turned out to be very stable. And you can very easily apply those later to the tabletop. I do not need to make a frame under the tabletop or something like this. I can just screw them on the frame, as you can see here. So it's a very simple project, not complicated at all. Pretty much everyone who's a bit handy could do this, but I think it still looks cool, which you will see at the end of the video. Even though that the legs are just screwed on, no glue, nothing like this. I still have to go through a lot of steps with that. I have to attach every single drill like 3 times for every single screw. So it still takes some time, even though that's, like I said, very simple project. when I remember the time when I worked in different workshops, and every single worker had only one one drill. Oh, I, I don't know. I do not remember how we did this, but I cannot imagine to work the whole day just with or on a whole project just with one drill and change the tool every single time. All right, we are about to apply the finish, and I use here just some oil finish, which if you know my videos, you already know that I'm a huge fan of oil finishes. And this oil is a mineral oil, and technically it's an oil that is made for cutting boards. But it turned out, and this is just my opinion, that it looks so much better than other oils that I tried out in the past. So I use it for almost every piece of furniture now. Okay, we are almost done, and I would say let's see how the kids react to it. I hope they like it. At the beginning, it seemed like my kids didn't really know what to do with it, or what it's for, but it turned out that they really enjoy this table, like I enjoyed the table that I had when I was a child. All right, thanks for watching, and see you next time.